Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience here in Mississippi, WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in through our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast, we're glad you all could be with us as well. But when I say the name Elvis Presley, especially for our radio audience here in Mississippi, we all know the man and the music. But the new book by Steve Bender really allows us to know one of the big events that happened in his career that I think now we get a better glimpse of. The book is called Elvis 68 Comeback, the story behind the special. We have director and author Steve Bender joining us to talk to us all about the book and the experience of putting it together. Steve, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Steve, this is a beautiful book, and as I said, when we think about Elvis Presley, we know so much about his music, but you really take us into this special and how it all came about and his whole perspective of it. What was it like for you to tell this story now?
It's as if I had done the special last week. It ages better with time, it seems, and I'm kind of amazed myself. I look at it and say there must have been an intervening spiritual connection to this, because I look at it and it looks so fresh to me, and I'm saying, I did that?
And I love the fact, Steve, there's this great marriage of the stories around the special and where Elvis was at this point, but also the photographs. Many of them I've never seen before, even notes. What was that like for you to be able to see all come together as you were sharing this pivotal part of his journey?
Well, the irony of the whole thing is that Parker, who always tried to, instill his influence on everything, and in this particular production, he was shut out, as it turns out, almost 100% from any decision-making. Elvis had decided, after he and I had met and communicated on the same level, he went home and told Priscilla that I don't care what Colonel Parker asks me or tells me what to do, I'm going with this kid Bender, because I got a gut feeling about him. So I didn't know any of this until after the special, because I was wondering during production why Parker didn't fire me. And now I know the reason. Priscilla told me about a year after Elvis passed that Elvis came home that first day after his first meeting with me and felt so strongly about working with me.
Wow. Well, I tell you, one thing that comes through, I would have to say, Steve, in reading the book and kind of going through and thinking about how when we think about public figures and celebrities, we have this certain persona of them. But when, as you were talking about in the book, when things were not right, when there were challenges that came and Elvis had to be told about them, one thing that struck me was how he didn't get frazzled by it. That when things happen, he would say, "It's okay. We'll be able to keep going." What was that like for you to see the way he navigated things that other people would have freaked out about?
Well, I found out that as long as you were honest and straight with Elvis, he was, very much understood. For instance, when I brought our musical director, Billy Goldenberg, after I gave Billy Strange, who was originally someone that Elvis wanted in the production as his musical director, he was so busy working with Nancy Sinatra that he failed to meet any deadlines that I gave him in terms of prepping for Elvis to come to my office and start rehearsing, that I threatened him that if he didn't bring at least a few of the songs that Elvis was asked to sing, that I would fire him. And he said, "You can't fire me. I'm closer to Elvis Presley than you are." At the time, it was absolutely the truth. And but I took the stand that I wasn't going to tolerate this. And I said, especially because it's Elvis Presley, you just can't do this. And as a result, I ended up firing him and bringing in Billy Goldenberg from New York. And Colonel Parker said, "Now you've done it, Bender. Elvis isn't going to come finish the special because of what you've done. When Elvis showed up, and he always showed up by himself, he never came with the Colonel to anything. I explained exactly what was going on, and he nodded and said, okay, let's move on, and that was it.
Wow. And I think, that is such a big thing. So we have to talk about this part of the book, which you don't focus a lot on, Steve, but it is something that definitely comes through for the reader, and that is the trust and the relationship that you had with Elvis. Talk to us about the reflection of that, the fact that he did trust you, and he was able to not only to listen to you, but also to realize that you did have his best interest at heart.
Yeah, I was kind of playing Jiminy Cricket from the movie Pinocchio with him, where I think he was, for whatever reasons, he was lied to by so many people in his inner circle that he had lost faith in, what they told him, and he had lost faith as a result in his own talent. And I think my job as a director primarily was to restore to Elvis the knowledge that he was the talent, not the publicity machines at his record company, RCA, or Colonel Parker's hyping all the time. And Colonel Parker didn't care about Elvis creatively. He only really cared about, I'm the guy with the power, I'm the guy who makes the decisions. And it's the first time, I think, in his life that he was really challenged. There was nothing the Colonel had that he could use to influence me or bribe me into doing what he felt was in Elvis's best interest. I had a great team around me. We knew we didn't want to do the original order of 20 Christmas songs, and no talking from Elvis. And so we went our own direction. And as I said, as we progressed in the show, I knew Elvis was totally 100% committed. The very first meeting that he and I had, he said, so Steve, what do you think of my career? And I, without thinking, I just blurted out, I think it's in the toilet. And he laughed and said, finally, somebody's giving me the straight truth. And from then on, it was a series of us getting together and trusting each other. It wasn't. It was not a power game of who's the most important person doing this. It was a real family unit, and it was the first time Elvis really did a project without his own entourage and inner circle around him, other than just to be his audience and laugh at his jokes and applaud him when they felt he needed the encouragement. The truth is, he just needed to be told the truth.
Right. And the truth is, the special went on to be so much bigger than even some could have predicted. One of the things you mentioned in the book, Steve, is that NBC reported that the Elvis special captured 42% of the total viewing audience. It was the network's biggest rating victory for the entire year. And then they went on to air, of course, the longer version after his death. What is your hope then, Steve, not only for Elvis fans, but also for fans of history, when they're able to read and enjoy Elvis' 68 comeback? What do you hope this book does for them?
I think it's a pathway for all artists who acknowledge the fact. Elvis deserved the title, the King of Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be put in writing in any of his contracts or anything. It was a fact, and I think the fact that his peers acknowledged it. And you have to realize it was the first time that only an hour was aired when it went national, without much of the improv, and it still got those ratings.
Yeah. It's a beautiful book, and I'm so glad that you are telling these stories, Steve, because I think, like you said, I think other artists will be inspired by them. I think one of the big takeaways from me, and I think for anyone in the creative community, would be to trust your gut, trust your instinct. You were able to do that, and what you were able to do, you mentioned with the improv in particular, and just look at what the result was. Again, the book is Elvis, 68 Comeback, the story behind the special. Our guest is the one and only Steve Bender. Steve, thank you again for this book and for the time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Cyrus. It was a pleasure.
The pleasure's definitely all mine, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.